Have you ever found yourself trapped in a relationship where the kinder you try to be, the more you're disrespected? The more patient you are, the softer you become. The harder you try to prove your good intentions, the more the other person pushes, the more they hurt you, the deeper they drag you into a spiral of doubting yourself. The scary truth is, the person in front of you doesn't play by the same rules you do. You enter a connection hoping for respect, for fairness, for mutual understanding. But a narcissist doesn't care about any of that. The only thing they want is power. Power to control your emotions, power to define your worth, power to turn you into fuel for their fragile ego. Carl Jung once reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. When you're facing a narcissist, your unconscious is guided by an illusion that if you're good enough, kind enough, patient enough, then they will change. But the truth is, the harder you try, the more they exploit, the more they manipulate, the more they drain you. Take a moment and look at yourself. How many times have you sacrificed your own peace just to grasp a few fleeting moments of warmth from them? How many times have you asked yourself, where did I go wrong, when the fault was never yours? How many times have you collapsed in exhaustion, yet convinced yourself, if I just try a little harder, things will be different? That is the sweet but cruel trap of kindness placed in the wrong hands. A narcissist cannot value your kindness because inside them lies a bottomless void. They fear the true fragility within themselves, so they build a mask of arrogance, of power, of untouchability. And that mask only holds when you keep feeding it with your patience, your sacrifice, and your hope. That's why every time you try to be kinder, you don't move closer to healing. You only fall deeper into dependency and allow them to tighten their grip on your soul. This is not love. It is not connection. And it is certainly not a path to change. This is depletion, a loop that makes you lose yourself in the illusion that one day they'll finally awaken. The painful truth is, that day will never come. And if you still believe that just one more act of kindness will save them, then you are the one who needs saving. If these words strike a chord with you, stay. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. Because the path out of this cycle only opens when you finally dare to face it head on. The very first thing you need to remember is this: a narcissist doesn't see the world the way you do. You seek understanding. They seek domination. You want connection. They want control. You care about truth. They only care about holding on to power. And if twisting the truth is what it takes to get it, they won't hesitate. That's why the more you explain, the more they dodge. The more you prove, the more they deny. The more you try to reconcile, the more they push you into defending yourself. That's not random. That's strategy. Because the moment you start defending yourself, you're already admitting that their perspective carries weight. And at that point, the game is no longer about truth. It's about you trying to prove yourself inside the frame they created. They never truly listen to you. They only listen to find weaknesses, to twist things, to make you doubt yourself. And every time you fall into the trap of arguing, you hand them even more power. Maybe you felt this before. One day, they're cold, distant, even cruel. But just when you're ready to walk away, they throw you a crumb of sweetness, a little tenderness, a vague promise. That moment softens you, and you come back. You keep hoping. The cycle between suffering and those rare drops of sweetness is the strongest chain of all. It's no different than an addiction. You're no longer staying for love. You're staying for the craving of a few scraps of illusion. But here's a truth that few people dare to face. You're not staying because of them. You're staying because of the wounds inside yourself that haven't been acknowledged. Those wounds make you believe that if you just try hard enough, you'll be accepted, that you'll be loved, that you'll be seen. And the narcissist is simply someone who knows how to dig into that tender spot. Carl Jung once said, "We are not shaped by what happens to us, but by how we choose to face it." The issue isn't what the narcissist does, it's about where it lands inside you. If you still carry an emptiness waiting to be filled, they'll use it to control you. If you still believe that your kindness will make someone change, they'll exploit that belief to keep you bound. This is not a story of who's right and who's wrong. This is a story about freedom. And as long as you need their validation, you are not free. The truth may break your heart, but it can also set you free. A narcissist doesn't care about fairness, doesn't care about reason, doesn't care about genuine feelings. The only thing they care about is power. And when you stop playing their game, they lose that power. Remember this, freedom doesn't come from winning an argument. Freedom comes from no longer needing to take part in the argument at all. Do you know what keeps you stuck in that painful relationship for so long? It's hope. Hope that one day they'll finally recognize your worth, that if you're just a little more patient, a little kinder, if you explain yourself one more time, eventually they'll change. But let's face the truth. How many times have you waited? How many times have you burned yourself out? And what is actually changed? What you're clinging to is not their real self. It's an image that you created in your own mind, an image of fairness, of love, of respect, things you long for so deeply that you projected them onto someone who was never capable of giving them to you. They only mirrored back the intensity of your longing and then twisted it into a tool to control you. Carl Jung once said, "We don't hold ideas, it's the ideas that hold us." And here, the idea that kindness can save a narcissist has held you captive, like a prison. It made you forget that kindness is not meant to be exploited, that patience is not meant to be trampled on, and that love is not meant to cost you yourself. You may have felt like a puppet. Every time they're cold, you ache. Every time they're sweet, you come alive again. You can no longer tell where you end and they begin, what's real, what's fake. And that's the moment you've handed over the keys to your soul. But here's the crucial truth. They only have power as long as you keep reacting the way they want. If you stop seeking validation from them, if you stop dancing to the emotional games they set up, then they have nothing left to hold on to. Their control collapses the moment you stop believing that your worth depends on their gaze. Is it painful? Yes, but it's also the beginning of freedom. Because only when you stop searching for answers from a narcissist can you turn inward and finally hear the voice within yourself. And if there's one thing I want you to carry with you right now, it's this. You don't need their validation to be yourself. You never did. If these words wake something in you, leave a comment. Write down what you truly feel right now, because only when you begin to name your pain can you begin to step out of it. Awakening always comes with loss. When you begin to truly see a narcissist for who they are, you also have to face another kind of pain, accepting that everything you once believed, once hoped for, once held tightly in your heart, was only an illusion, and that illusion kept you stuck for so long that you forgot who you really are. This is the hardest moment, because when you let go of the illusion, you feel empty. You've grown used to living inside the whirlwind of emotions they created, painful yet sweet, wounding yet hopeful. When that whirlwind disappears, silence rushes in, and that silence can be so terrifying that many people run straight back to the very person who hurt them, simply because they're afraid to face the emptiness within. But remember, the emptiness is not your enemy. It is an invitation. It calls you back to yourself. Carl Jung once said, suffering is the path to consciousness, which means the very loss, the emptiness, the collapse you fear is actually the doorway to a new journey. If you are brave enough to walk through it, you'll discover a strength you've never touched before, the strength of no longer being dependent. Because you'll come to see this. No one can define your worth except you. No one can bind you unless you extend your hands willingly. No one can make you small unless you still believe you are small. And once you start to recognize this truth, the narcissist's power dissolves. They may still try to provoke you, to deny, to blame. But instead of reacting as you once did, you'll realize it's only an echo from a soul full of fear and emptiness. It no longer has the power to shake you. Freedom doesn't mean never feeling pain. Freedom means feeling the pain without being controlled by it, understanding that the hurt doesn't come from them, but from the unhealed pieces inside you. And now, you can choose to look straight at it, to embrace it, instead of hiding behind kindness offered to someone who never truly valued it. This is the moment you begin to step into a new kind of strength, the strength of clarity. And in that clarity, the game the narcissist once played becomes so obvious, so cheap, that you no longer even want to step into it. When you finally reach the point of seeing everything clearly, you'll realize a strange truth. You don't need to fight the narcissist. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to prove them wrong. In fact, the real victory is this: no longer feeling the need to play their game at all. A narcissist only survives through your reactions. They need your anger to feel powerful. They need your pain to feel important. They need your arguments to believe they still control your mind. But when you stop reacting, when you become indifferent to the theater they put on, their entire power collapses. You start to feel different. They still talk, but you are no longer moved. They still perform, but you no longer play along. They still try to provoke, but inside you there is a quiet space, untouched, unshakable. That is true freedom, not freedom from them, but freedom from the need for validation from anyone outside yourself. And this is exactly what Carl Jung called the integration of the shadow. When you've looked straight into your inner wounds, you no longer fear them. You don't need others to heal them for you. You don't need to chase approval to fill the void. You stand tall, bare but whole, because you have embraced all of yourself. And here's the paradox. When you reach that strength, the narcissist loses all their pull on you. They may go on seeking other victims, but with you, the game is over. And you begin a new journey, a journey where your value no longer lies in someone else's hands, but radiates from the clarity within. If you feel this message could help someone who's trapped in the cycle of a toxic relationship, share this video, because one small action from you could open the door for them out of the darkness. There's a stage that almost everyone who breaks free from a narcissist's cycle has to go through: the emptiness and the loneliness. Because when you're no longer swept up in their dramatic performances, life at first feels like it's lost all its color. No more highs, no more emotional intoxication, no more moments that are both bitter and sweet. Only silence remains. And for many people, that silence feels so unbearable that they end up running back. But it's in this very silence that you finally have the chance to hear what you've long forgotten, the voice of your own self. For years, you've lived only in reaction to others, trying to please them, trying to avoid being hurt, trying to prove your worth. And now, you are just beginning to relearn how to live from within, instead of orbiting around the eyes and judgments of the outside world. Carl Jung once said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." And you are beginning to awaken. Awaken to the truth that you no longer have to prove anything. Awaken to the truth that your worth does not depend on whether someone else acknowledges it. Awaken to the truth that real love never comes from control, but from freedom and respect. This does not make you cold or unfeeling. On the contrary, it makes you more human than ever. Because when you are no longer ruled by fear and dependency, you can love out of choice, not out of desperation. You can give kindness without fear of being exploited, because now you know how to set boundaries. You can connect without losing yourself, because you found a solid center within. And then one day, you'll realize what you once thought was a loss was really a liberation. You didn't lose love. You only escaped a false bond. You didn't lose connection. You only walked away from a power game. You didn't lose yourself. You are simply reclaiming the self that had long been buried under a mask of forced kindness. That is when you understand the true meaning of being untouchable. Not because you've built a hard shell around you, but because nothing outside can stir up the wounds inside anymore. You've seen them, you've accepted them, you've integrated them, and when that happens, the world may storm around you, but you remain still, like a mountain. True freedom does not come from changing the narcissist. They will never give you the recognition you've been waiting for. They will never take responsibility for the wounds they've caused. If you are still waiting for an apology, for understanding, for change, then you are still placing your fate in their hands, and you will remain bound forever. Freedom only comes when you stop doing that, when you decide that you don't need their validation to feel your own worth, when you realize the truth is not always acknowledged, but it is always the truth. When you know you don't need someone else to tell you you are worthy, because you already know it yourself. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists, and what you accept transforms you." All this time, you've been resisting your pain by denying it, by pleasing, by clinging, but now you can choose a different path. Accept that you have been hurt. Accept that some people will never change. Accept that your value does not depend on anyone else, and that very acceptance transforms you. It frees you from the narcissist's cycle. It pulls you out of the invisible prison, built from hope and illusion. It gives you the chance to live a life where you hold the keys, not anyone else. Imagine a day when you walk without being chained to the fear of rejection, no longer chasing to prove yourself worthy, no longer bowing your head to toxic judgment. You are free, you are clear, you are yourself, and no one can take that away. If you're still here, listening to these words, it means you've been brave enough to face the truth. And that is the first step to liberation. Don't let this message stop with you. Share it so that others may also find the strength they need. If this speaks to you, hit like so I know you're still here. Leave a comment and share your own experience, because your story may be the light for someone else. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel and walk with me on the journeys ahead, where together we'll keep exploring the depths of human psychology through the lens of Carl Jung, so that every step you take leads you closer to freedom, to clarity, and to a life no longer controlled by anyone.